Let me be straight with you right now. Her silence is not what you think it is. Most guys see a quiet phone screen and immediately their brain starts spiraling. She's done. She moved on. She doesn't care anymore. And bro, that panic, that's the exact thing that's gonna make you lose her for real. You start checking your phone every 5 minutes, rereading old texts like there's some secret code hidden in OK and LOL, analyzing every word of your last conversation like you're solving a crime scene. You're writing a text, deleting it, writing it again, posting something on your story, hoping she notices, then going completely ghost mode, all in the same night. And deep down you know why, because silence feels like a funeral. But here's what nobody's telling you. Silence isn't the end of the story. Sometimes silence is her processing. Sometimes it's her pride. Sometimes it's her fear. And sometimes it's a woman who thinks about you every single day and still won't say a word. Because here's the brutal truth about emotions. They don't follow the same rules as behavior. She can go completely quiet and still replay your voice in her head before she falls asleep. She can stop texting and still scroll back through old memories. She can act unbothered and still feel everything. Thoughts are private. They cost nothing. But reaching out, that's vulnerable. That's risky. And when pride and fear are sitting at the table, vulnerability doesn't get a seat. Most men will never understand this. They'll chase the silence with noise, flood her inbox with pressure, and wonder why she drifts further away. But the man who gets this, the Stoic man, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't chase, he stays calm in the unknown. And that calm, that right there is the most powerful move on the board, because the person who panics loses influence. And the person who stays grounded, he stays in her head, rent-free. In this video, I'm going to break down the real psychology behind why she's not reaching out, but she absolutely hasn't forgotten about you. And more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly how your response to that silence either pulls her back in or pushes her away forever. Let's get into it. Real quick before we dive deep. If this channel has ever made you stop and think differently about yourself, hit that subscribe button right now. New content drops every week and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Now let's go. Number 1, emotional inertia. The feelings she built for you don't just disappear because the texts stopped. Here's something most guys get completely wrong. They think attraction fades at the same speed as communication. Like once the messages stop, the feelings flatline too. That's not how the human brain works, bro. Emotions have momentum. They build up slowly over time through every shared laugh, every late night conversation, every moment of real connection, every tension that was never fully resolved. That emotional energy that built up between you two, it doesn't just shut off because the contact stopped. Think about a train moving at full speed. You cut the engine. Does it stop immediately? No, it keeps rolling forward because of the force that was already built up. Human attachment works exactly the same way. If what you had carried real emotional weight, her mind doesn't factory reset just because you two stopped talking. The memory of how she felt around you keeps echoing inside her. She might remember the way conversations with you just flowed. Effortless, no awkward silences. The way she felt safe. The excitement of not knowing what you'd say next. Those impressions don't delete themselves. They replay automatically, often at the most random moments. Driving to work, in the shower, right before she falls asleep. And here's the wild part. Silence can actually make this stronger. When you were in constant contact, new experiences kept replacing old ones. But when interaction stops, her brain has less new stuff to process, so it cycles back to what already exists, which is you. This is why people often miss someone hardest, not the day after, but weeks later when the absence becomes a presence of its own. But understand this. Emotional inertia doesn't mean she's about to text you. Pride, uncertainty, fear of being rejected, the need to feel in control, all of that can suppress the impulse to reach out even when the feelings are real. Thoughts require zero courage. Action requires everything. The Stoic man understands this and he doesn't panic. He doesn't blow up her phone trying to force a response and disrupt the natural emotional process that's already working in his favor. He stays patient. He trusts the impact he already made. Because if the connection had real depth, it doesn't vanish overnight. Number 2, pride and fear. She wants to reach out. Her ego won't let her. Silence isn't always a lack of desire. Sometimes it's the loudest war happening inside someone. Pride and fear team up like the most powerful defense mechanism in human psychology, and together they can stop someone dead in their tracks, even when every emotion inside them is screaming to make a move. She might miss you. She might wonder what you're doing. She might have written and deleted that text 10 times, but she still won't send it. Why? Because reaching out first means exposing herself. It means admitting that you matter. It means risking the possibility that you don't respond, or you respond cold, or you've already moved on. And that kind of emotional exposure without any guarantee? That's terrifying. If she felt like she invested more in the connection than you did, if she was the one who cared harder, opened up more, risked more, going first again feels like surrendering every last bit of leverage she has left. Staying silent is how she protects her dignity. Staying silent is how she keeps control of the narrative. Fear makes it even worse. What if you don't reply? What if you do reply but it's distant? What if clarity hurts more than the uncertainty? A lot of people would rather stay in the comfortable ambiguity of not knowing than step into the painful clarity of a confirmed answer. So she keeps quiet and she keeps thinking. A Stoic man doesn't interpret this silence as rejection. He doesn't assume it's a power game she's running. He recognizes that human behavior is almost always shaped by internal conflicts that are completely invisible from the outside. What looks like cold indifference might actually be restrained emotion. What feels like distance might be hesitation standing right at the edge. And here's the key. Pressure makes pride and fear stronger, not weaker. If you chase her, demand explanations, blow up her phone, or try to force the conversation, you make reaching out feel more dangerous for her because now it's not just vulnerability, it's rewarding desperate behavior. But calm lowers the barrier. When you stay composed, when you keep living your life fully, when you signal through your energy that reconnecting wouldn't lead to drama or an interrogation, you become a safe option. You become the low-risk, high-reward choice. That doesn't guarantee she'll come back, but it makes it a whole lot easier if she decides to. If this is hitting different right now, do me a solid, subscribe and drop a comment below telling me which one of these reasons hit closest to home. Your story might help the next man watching this. Now let's keep going because it gets even deeper. Number 3, the power of unfinished emotion. The human brain can't let go of what was never closed. Psychologists have studied this for decades. The mind has a powerful bias toward completion. Experiences that end without real resolution linger in memory far longer than experiences that had a clean ending. And in relationships, this effect gets multiplied because emotions amplify everything. When something meaningful stops abruptly, fades without explanation, or leaves important things unsaid, the brain keeps returning to it like a song stuck on repeat, searching for the ending it never got. If your connection ended without a definitive emotional conclusion, no clear breakup, no real closure conversation, just a slow fade into silence, she may be mentally replaying it on a loop, not because she's suffering necessarily, but because her brain is literally still trying to figure out what happened. She goes back over conversations. She analyzes the tone of certain moments. She wonders how things could have gone differently. And every replay reinforces the emotional imprint rather than fading it. Here's the thing about certainty versus ambiguity. Certainty ends rumination. Ambiguity fuels it. When someone outright rejects you, it's painful, but it's finite. The story has an ending. But when things are unclear, neither fully together nor fully over, that emotional loop stays wide open and the brain keeps feeding it. Silence intensifies this because it removes the new information that could resolve the story. With nothing current to process, the mind defaults back to what already exists. A Stoic man doesn't exploit this dynamic by playing games or deliberately creating confusion. Instead, he avoids the behaviors that close the loop in a destructive way. Emotional outbursts, sending paragraphs, forcing clarity through pressure, all of that replaces genuine intrigue with exhaustion. Once it feels settled through conflict or overexposure, the mind stops revisiting it. But when you maintain your composure, when you let things rest without destroying them, she remembers calm, she remembers depth, and positive ambiguity is 1,000 times more compelling than negative closure. Number 4, curiosity and comparison. Distance doesn't erase your value. It often increases it. When you're constantly in someone's life, your value becomes familiar, and familiarity is comfortable, but it stops the brain from wondering, analyzing, or imagining. Everything is already known. Everything is accessible. But the moment you're gone, distance creates questions where answers used to live. What are you doing now? Have you changed? Did you move on? Are you happier? Is someone else getting the version of you she had? These questions aren't obsession. They're cognitive tension. The human brain hates unanswered questions, and in the absence of direct contact, imagination becomes the only tool available. And then comparison kicks in. As she goes out, meets new people, has new conversations, she unconsciously measures every experience against the emotional standard you set. Does conversation flow this naturally with anyone else? Does she feel this relaxed? Is the connection this effortless, or does it feel forced? Even small differences trigger memories of how things felt with you. Distance makes this stronger because it removes the emotional noise that comes with being present. When you're around, small annoyances and everyday friction can overshadow real connection. But when you're absent, those surface irritations fade, and what's left is a clean, distilled memory of the best parts. A Stoic man doesn't manipulate this by disappearing theatrically or crafting strategic social media posts to provoke jealousy. He simply lives. His absence is meaningful because it's authentic, not a performance. And that authenticity makes the comparison hit harder, because she can sense whether a man is genuinely moving forward or just staging it. Genuine forward momentum signals that reconnecting would be worthwhile, not dramatic, not needy, just real. Over time, you stop being just another person in her story. You become the reference point, the standard. And when that standard is associated with calm and depth and ease, it tends to outlast almost everything that comes after it. Number 5, emotional safety. Your steady presence became her psychological home base. Attraction starts with excitement, but what lives longest in memory is how someone made you feel emotionally. If your presence created a sense of calm, if she felt accepted, not judged, not pressured, not required to perform, that feeling becomes a psychological refuge that doesn't just evaporate when contact stops. The brain doesn't forget environments where it felt safe, especially when everything else around her starts feeling chaotic, demanding, or emotionally exhausting. In those moments, the mind reaches for contrast. It drifts toward the memory of what felt grounded. If you were someone who listened without turning everything into a debate, who stayed composed under pressure, who didn't blow up over small things, those qualities become permanently attached to how she remembers you. A Stoic man leaves this kind of imprint naturally because he doesn't need emotional chaos to feel connected. His consistency makes interactions feel manageable instead of draining. And when he's gone, that psychological relief doesn't fully disappear. It becomes a remembered state that her mind can return to. Emotional safety also removes the fear of judgment. Around you, she may have felt like she didn't need to curate herself. She could be quiet without it feeling weird. She could be uncertain without being criticized. That kind of freedom is rare, and rare experiences are stored with more intensity in memory. Here's what most men get wrong, though. They think being the calm guy makes them less attractive. But stability doesn't kill desire. Stability enhances long-term desirability. Excitement gets attention. Safety sustains it. A man who offers both becomes genuinely hard to replace because that combination almost never exists. The key is that this safety has to be paired with self-respect. Calm built on people-pleasing or lack of boundaries doesn't inspire desire. It inspires comfort without attraction. But Stoic stability, warmth balanced with firmness, groundedness without passivity, that creates a specific kind of impression that lingers in the deepest part of someone's emotional memory. Number 6, the silent test. She's watching how you handle what she's not saying. Sometimes silence isn't passive, sometimes it's data collection, not in a manipulative, calculated way, but in the deeply human way that people observe each other's behavior to understand who someone really is beneath the surface. When communication stops, the absence becomes a mirror. It reveals character. It shows what a person is made of when they're not being watched, validated, or rewarded. Do they panic? Do they chase? Do they post cryptic things online? Do they become bitter and cold? Or do they stay grounded, stay busy, stay themselves? A part of her is watching, even without consciously naming it. She knows that if the connection mattered to you, reaching out would be easy. Your restraint tells her something. Your composure communicates something that no text message ever could. It tells her that your emotional foundation isn't dependent on her constant reassurance. Most men fail this test without even knowing they're taking it. They send the just checking in text that's dripping in anxiety. They post something clearly designed to get a reaction. They go silent for 3 days, then explode with emotion. These behaviors don't just signal insecurity. They confirm that the silence is winning. Even if she feels something, knowing she still has that effect on you, the overall impression is fragility. And fragility isn't attractive. The Stoic man doesn't treat silence like a war. He treats it like weather. It's just part of life. His goals stay active. His routines stay consistent. His emotional tone stays even. He's not ignoring her to make a point. He simply refuses to abandon himself in pursuit of certainty. And from her perspective, that kind of steadiness is compelling. It makes the idea of reconnecting feel safe rather than volatile. It tells her that coming back wouldn't mean walking into chaos or neediness. It tells her that you're still you, whole, grounded, and moving forward. This doesn't guarantee she comes back. Nothing does. What it does is preserve your dignity, your credibility, and your influence, all things that panic would have destroyed in 48 hours. And here's the deeper truth. The silent test isn't just about her. It's about you. It reveals whether your sense of self is anchored from the inside or dependent on external validation. If you can stay calm, stay engaged in your own life, and stay open to whatever comes without obsessing over the outcome, you're not just keeping influence. You're becoming stronger. You're building the kind of character that will make the next connection, whether it's her or someone new, more powerful than anything you've had before. So let's bring it all together. When she's not reaching out, it is not automatic proof that you've been forgotten. Emotional inertia keeps her feelings alive long after the conversation ends. Pride and fear keep her silent even when the impulse to connect is real. Unfinished emotion keeps your memory on a loop in her mind. Distance creates curiosity and comparison that raises your perceived value. Emotional safety turns your presence into a psychological refuge she returns to when things get hard. And the silent test reveals whether your character holds up when nobody's watching. The difference between the man who gets forgotten and the man who stays in her head comes down to one thing: how he responds to the silence. Panic replaces intrigue with pressure. Desperation turns memory into relief that you're gone. But composure preserves everything you already built. You don't need to chase. You don't need to perform. You don't need to force clarity that isn't ready to come. You just need to keep becoming the best version of yourself. Focused, grounded, purposeful. And let the emotional impression you already left do the work. Stoicism doesn't promise that she comes back. It promises something more valuable, that you never lose yourself waiting to find out. Because a man who is whole, self-directed, and at peace regardless of the outcome, that man doesn't just stay in her head. That man becomes impossible to replace. If this video gave you something real today, subscribe right now. Because this channel exists for men who are serious about leveling up from the inside out. Drop a comment below. What part of this hit hardest for you? I read every single one. And share this with a man who needs to hear it today. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay stoic. Let's go.